Hello, everyone. This is Sankalp,
And this is Gaurang.
and you're listening to our podcast, The Unwritten Case. All right, so we are back with our the podcast, The Unwritten Case, episode 3. And for today's podcast, we have Theophyl with us. Theo, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks so much for thinking of me. This is such a cool initiative, and I'm just happy to be here.
We are so glad that I think that we're having this podcast with you. Thanksgiving is coming up.
Mhm.
What plans?
That's a great question. My initial plans were to go to New Orleans to see the city because I haven't been before, but I have to stay local because I'm in the process of applying for some visas. So I'm actually going to go to my friend from college's place for Thanksgiving. She lives in Lincoln, Massachusetts. She's a dear friend.
Nice.
She's in SoCal and she's invited me and one of my friends from here to join her and her family for Thanksgiving. So I'm excited about that.
Very
How about you guys?
Yeah, you can save New Orleans for Mardi Gras.
Yes,
It's very much more
exactly.
eventful than
Exactly.
yeah,
Than Thanksgiving period.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the season is getting quieter
Mhm.
slowly. The semester is coming to an end
Mhm.
soon, although we don't want it to come to an end.
Mhm.
What's been on your mind lately?
Yeah. Well, I will preface that by saying that this semester I've loved it so much. I've been very fortunate to have great professors and great classes that are pushing my thinking a lot. And as we're winding down, I'm really thinking about what I'm going to do my career beyond consulting. So I'm so fortunate to be able to return to the firm I was with this summer. And then afterwards, I need to think about like, what do I want my career legacy to look like? And part of that is, and I really am passionate about investing in Africa. I think it's a really cool way through which we can actually create the future we want to see on the continent, given our upcoming population growth that we're expected to see.
Hmm.
And now I've been like really thinking about like what is the right kind of capital that should chase the right kind of opportunity on the continent. And I've been so fortunate that like some of my professors have been willing to like have that conversation. And I've been to a few conferences lately that have been helpful to also like really figure out how to create a matrix of opportunity for myself and then figure out where I can like build an edge to be able to go and really deploy capital effectively.
Any ideas so far?
That is a great question. I'm kind of oscillating between leveraging the legacy sort of like institutional capital sources to then like go into infrastructure investing, or doing some more of like finding patient capital to be able to then deploy into small and medium scale enterprises, but then focusing on either education tech opportunities or agriculture and agri-food systems. Because I think at the end of the day, we need to be able to feed ourselves moving forward and
Yeah.
be able to finance the right kind of companies that are, helping open up the value chain a little bit more is very helpful, or could be very impactful actually. So those are kind of like two big ideas I'm ruminating on. And then third is like, what could search fund systems look like for Africa? And right now it's kind of been regarded on like a in America as like the method of choice for like EGS and Stanford grads, and I think it would be cool to take it back to the content a little bit. But yeah, watch
Very
the
cool.
space.
Let's take a step back from where you are today and what you have, started looking into and going into in terms of investing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with, young Theo,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
All of us have very interesting stories coming back from a background, you're from Ghana.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about, a story from your childhood that shapes how you see the world today?
Yeah. I appreciate that question. I'm from Ghana, as you said. Love Ghana. That's my place for sure. And I try to go once a year. My childhood has been shaped by a lot of different things. For context, my mom is a professor and my dad is a pastor. And
Well,
our childhood structure has been such that every week during school, we would spend Monday through Fridays in the city where my mom is, which is the on campus for the University of Ghana. And then on the weekends, we'll go to my dad's, wherever he is. So we always lived life in two different places. But that meant that I was in the car a lot with my mom.
mm,
And my mother has been one of like the biggest forces of influence in my life. she like whenever we're in the car, that's where because we're in the car a lot, she takes phone calls from there. She's talking to different people. She's having real conversations about what she thinks about the world in the car. And also, she's shaping my worldview through that. And one big thing was when I was in 10th grade, she ended up getting the Fulbright scholarship to come to the US. It's Fulbright
Wow.
fellowship. So she studied in Pennsylvania doing some work, and my siblings and I were fortunate to come with her. That was formative. That was the first time I came to the US. And whilst we're in Ghana, those car conversations involved figuring out ways in which she, as a professor who saw a lot of young Ghanaians come through her office and come through her classroom every single year,
Mhm.
she was trying to figure out how she could um, help empower them to go and then feel economically safe and economically taken care of. And as a professor, like there's only so much you can do beyond professing in class. Um, but outside of that, I think she ended up figuring out entrepreneurial ways to really set things up for her students. Um, but beyond all the different methods and things that she did, what was most impactful was the fact that her heart never changed. And for her, it was always about figuring out how the next generation is going to move forward. And that tenet has never really left me. When we came to the US, unfortunately, her older sister passed away
No, sorry to
from
hear.
cancer.
Mm.
And it was a very pivotal time for her because that was the first sibling that ever passed away,
Mhm.
and she lived elsewhere. And if she wasn't in the US at the time, she would might not have been there towards the end, etc. And when we returned to Ghana, she became even more religious, even more charged in her vision and mission for the rest of the world, and ended up leaning much more strongly into entrepreneurship. And again, my mom was a professor, my dad's a pastor. We're not business people. And so, needless to say, we ended up running into like very real, strong financial difficulties. Where I was at the time when we returned to Ghana, I was attending a very good school, a very private school, international school, American school. We couldn't pay the school fees. We thought we could, but we couldn't because there was no money at home.
Oh.
Outside to the world, like things were fine, the clothes were shiny,
Mm.
there was fuel in the car, there was food on the table.
Mhm.
But didn't see my report card from 11th grade to 12th grade before grad. Actually didn't see my report card until after I graduated. And it took my mom leaving her job as a professor to go work as a second grade teacher to help pay off the school fees. Because she was working there, basically the school was like, hey, you can actually we're gonna forgive the debt essentially.
Right.
And that's how I was able to then see, and it was just in the nick of time that I was applying to schools in the US, and I was able to actually have my transcript released so that I can get to school. But it just showed that like despite all of those things, like my parents' ability to sacrifice and move things and shift things around just so that me and my siblings can have a shot at a strong future also stayed with me and also shaped my worldview. Um, but then beyond all of that too, it kind of gives me a sense of hope because my mom was going through a lot at the time, but somehow there was still joy in the household because it was important for her to make sure that she was cultivating a space where we, as a youngins, could work hard, study, and focus on what it is that we needed to focus on, which was school and work and
Mm.
church.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough time to go through. I mean, I seen parents sacrifice a lot of their life and their hustle to make things work for kids because that becomes a priority at some point. But
Yeah.
to see it in action, it's incredible to see what your parents have done for you and
Mhm.
your siblings. Who's in your family, like aside from your parents? And you said you have siblings.
Yes.
Who's
Who else is there?
Yeah.
I have two younger siblings. I'm the firstborn. And then I have a sister who's 2 years younger than me. She's currently doing a PhD in Maryland in computer engineering. And my younger brother, he's 4 years younger than me. He is at Brandeis doing a master's in international development. and they're a rambunctious bunch, if I do say so myself. They both love to team up against me because like, I will say it was my fault because in I hit puberty first, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
the firstborn.
Right.
And then when I hit puberty, I thought I was some cool guy. I thought I was interesting. I thought I was like whatever. And so I ended up isolating myself from them
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I will say I kind of regret it because I didn't need to be that rude to them. You have to keep the young kids humble, but like
Right.
I didn't need to do too much, anyways. So they ended up really teaming up against me to some extent, and then I left home very early as a teenager, at like 18, 17, 18, to come to school in the US, and so there was a lot of distance. So they are much closer to each other than they are to me, but I love them dearly, and in adulthood we found a way to kind of like really
Reconnect.
reconcile and
Mm.
reconnect and all that. So it's nice having them in the US as well.
Do you feel a sense of, responsibility being the oldest in the bunch of you three? Towards them, towards the
Mm.
family, like just being the older person, the older
Yeah,
sibling.
I think there's definitely like a sense of responsibility for sure. Um, but unlike other like African families, I guess, my parents haven't put a lot of pressure on me to step up and provide or anything. Out of my own volition, because of my appreciation of what my parents have done and the support that they provided, and also my recognition of the fact that like as we're all going, we all need to help each other.
Mm.
I have like taken on certain things. I've helped with, building retirement, like building like forever homes and supporting with like plane tickets that my siblings might need to come to school and like paying for visa fees. Nothing too overly consequential, but just like chipping in here and there to help support. And I think it's not because I'm being forced, but it's because I think it's essential. But thankfully, my two siblings are very internally motivated, very driven people. And so even without me stepping in and being like, hey, what do you need, etc., they figure it out. And then everything I do is always like an additional push.
Theo, I'm wondering, when did young Theo, grown up in a family which was, one is a professor, one is the
Mhm.
pastor, all serving towards the community, kind of realize that, okay, like I think you should be going towards business and like coming to the business school. What was that point, and
Mhm.
how did a young Theo's mind got shaped towards that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because I sometimes look around and I'm like, what? Why am I in business? Like, how did I end up
Many
here?
of us think of that, not just you.
Oh man, I think there are different. I could give you different flavors or different answers, but if I were to really kind of like bring it down to like the nuggets of it all, I was trying to really reflect on what is the future state I see for myself. Like when I die, what do I want to be said about me, or what do I want to have done in this world before I go? And that anchoring to a long term goal helped me think about like what steps I need to be taking today because I was trying to do that thinking at a time when I felt pretty directionless. And in doing so, I realized like, oh, at the end of the day, like if I can help move unemployment in West Africa from zero, like move it by like 0.01%, that's something. And then that made me kind of try to think of like what are the different tools you have in your arsenal to be able to make that happen. You could go government, which is great. You could go what's it called? You could go personal, you could go community oriented, you also could go business. And having seen people in my community and how they be able to like really shift things, I just realized that like the business tools, particularly when it comes to investing and how much of a lever it is to help shape the society
Hmm.
you want to see, that's what really anchored to me.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like me now looking forward and
Yeah.
as trying to figure it out. But after college, just went wherever I got a job and then made it make sense. And I found that ended up going to I was very lucky to get the job I got out of college.
Hmm.
And I think it set me up really well to be able to get a lot of optionality, a lot of transferable skills, and then also really think about how I can um connect that with my mission. So go further.
Well, well, I can't describe how intentional it
Mhm.
was. Like, I think your process of thinking through why a business school
Mhm.
and in the setting that you grew up,
Mhm.
but it's also how eerily similar to the way I was thinking as well.
Mhm.
Um, well, so not just that we share the same date of birth,
Yes, yes,
there's
indeed.
also, and it's so, I think, nice to hear that. I think this was how intentional of your thinking of why a business school.
Mhm.
I have a question for
Yes.
you. You're kind of in these two worlds I see. One is where when you spoke about your career legacy,
Mm.
right? That when you die, what have you left behind? And
Mhm.
if you can even elevate some communities out of poverty, that would be like a big legacy point for you.
Mhm.
But on the other world, there's also your family's financial troubles.
Mhm.
How do you see these both going together from here onwards?
Yeah. Um, Thankfully, my parents have been able to kind of weather the storm. Are they in the best financial position? Maybe not, but they're able to kind of still hobble along and like keep doing, and they're still working and they're still young-ish, so they're still able to like keep pushing. Um, but when it comes to like, I mean, a lot of people here at HBS are also trying to make sure that they're able to secure themselves and also chase the vision that they're hoping for. And we're all very fortunate to have like really good job prospects from now on.
Mm.
And I'm keeping reflect. I still reflect on the
Yeah.
conversation that we're having here at AGS about like how do you minimize your downside risk, like, and trying to figure out ways in which we are able to shoot
Mm.
for the moon and excel both impact wise and financially. And for me, that is important. I think you can do good whilst doing well, quote unquote. Um, and that is the vision. But then like moving forward to like there my parents are very special people who have shaped a lot of how I view myself. And I never would like there to be a situation where I'm not unable to like reach out to them, interact, etc. But then, as you grow and you evolve and you see the world differently and you create your own worldview, it can sometimes get difficult finding ways to really reconcile different parts of oneself and making sure that like all the ways in which you exist are able to find harmony with each other. And
Mm.
it's that kind of sometimes creates a rift where with distance and with time away from each other, you end up really building leagues of separation. And I am very much career first, vision first, legacy first.
Mm.
um and my mom, who used to be that way,
Mm.
has done, after her sister passed away, did a big U-turn and has said it's family first, it's God first, family second, and then everything else. Those are two different ways of viewing the world, and they're kind
Yeah.
of at conflict with each other sometimes. And as I move forward, I'm really trying to figure out how the heck do I reconcile all these different things about myself and make sure that like wherever I go, particularly if I'm going to stay in Africa, I'm able to be confident and comfortable and also cherish and value the people who matter the most to me.
Very beautifully said. You're saying your mom puts God first,
Yeah,
family second, then everything else.
everything else.
And you said your vision first, career first, legacy first, right?
Yes.
Help me reconcile with that a little bit. Like explain, let's go a bit deeper there. Like
Mm.
what brings that thought? What brings that prioritization?
Um, you know, when I think about w- where I'm from and the this is kind of like gusto and ambition to leave a mark on this world. And I try to think about why is that the case? And I
Mm.
think, when you have, I think in the Bible there's a phrase called the thorn in your flesh. Like when you have what's one that people might call a thorn in your flesh and sort of like a chip on your shoulder, a point to prove, not because anybody has put a gun to your head to say you have to do whatever, but more so because um you've been given so much, you've been blessed so much, what are you gonna do with that? Like, what else do you have to do than to push as much as you can?
Mm.
And
Mm.
I mean, I grew up seeing my mom leave. Yes, we were in cars a lot, but also she would go to church in the mornings on Sunday and then leave and go to work and then come back at 4 a.m. and then turn around and go back, travel across the country doing different kinds of work. That is what I saw when I was a teenager. And so that's what sat with me. And so my mom, with this U turn,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, ma'am, that's not how you taught us. That's not what you gave us in the beginning.
Yeah.
And even in me expressing that and seeing the tension within the two, makes it, I'm trying to figure out how I can shift my desires to be more aligned with my mom's, because as she's actually switched things around and leaned more spiritual, family first, she's doing even better in terms of like pushing the envelope at work even more than she was before when she was
Mm.
like hustling so much.
Mm.
And so there's a certain sense of ease that comes with that that I like to aspire to.
Yeah.
But now that I'm younger and I have the energy, why not push, you know? Um yeah.
You have no idea how much I, you know, associate with what you have shared. You know, you talk about your mom having this big U-turn in life.
Mm,
For me, it was a very similar story with my dad.
mm,
He grew up in a family which was somewhat religious, right? Like,
mhm,
they still believe in, God, and
mhm.
like I've seen his siblings, but once he was married, it was a complete shift. Like, I grew up listening to him about focus on career, focus on studies, focus on, going big.
Yeah.
And I did that, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, maybe I was a bit of a bum earlier, and I'll share more about that in my episode.
Yes.
A bit. Bad call.
But like, I'm in a stage in life now where I'm focusing a lot more on that career side, and my dad is now 180,
Mm,
very religious, right? My mom was always religious. She pulled him to that side,
mm,
and he's, you know reaching heights there.
mm,
And now he pushes me, like, focus on that more,
mm.
bring God into your life more. But then now I'm in that phase where, like, I grew up listening something completely different. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm now on the business track, on the career mindset, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to, like, reconcile. I completely, get
Yeah.
that side.
And so yeah, so we see each other in that regard. Like
Yeah.
it's so confusing because when when I was in junior high school, in basically in Ghana, for context, there's this exam you take called the BECE.
Uh-huh.
It's one of the, like, it's the first major exam everybody takes. It's a national exam, and you take that to be able to get into high school. And the the quality of high school you go to is almost determinant kind of future outcomes to some extent. So everybody wants to go to the best high schools. When I entered junior high school one, which is 2 or 3 years in advance of when I took this exam, my mom was like, "You've started the journey to take your BEC. Every single step you take here is what counts for the BEC. You can't do anything else but prepare for the BEC." And so it's like, it's all about work, it's all about ambition, it's all about achievement. Now, 20 years later, you're saying I need to switch the priority list. Like, that's confusing. So I relate to you on that for sure.
Let's fast forward a little bit now to 10 years
Mhm,
back, right? You just moved to the US 10 years ago, is that right?
mhm,
So we've talked about high school, Theo. We've talked
mhm,
about your experiences in Ghana. Now we're gonna focus on, moving from Ghana, which
mhm,
is, an African country,
mhm,
to the US, which is primarily, white dominant country.
mhm.
So you just change completely from, being Ghanaian to now a minority in the
Mhm.
US.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit more about that experience, the culture differences,
Mhm.
like, what's it like being a minority, like, stories there, just to learn a bit here.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely been like an adjustment. It's definitely been an adjustment to say the least. And coming to the US was, it's a big, not liberate. That's not the word I want to use. It's been a big source of openness to
Mm.
the world. And it's really shaped a lot of how I think about who I am, my values, what I hold near and dear, etc. But actually, the first time I moved to the US was in 2012 to a very small town in Pennsylvania. I lived there for a year. I was one of two black people in my 400-person grade.
Wow.
That is stark. Like there were, and people were very nice, very sweet, very welcoming. Um, and this it's sometimes I think this is kind of like stereotypical where like on day two of living in the apartment that we were living in,
Mm-hmm.
the neighbor across the street brought like a plate of cookies and said, "Welcome to Bloomsburg." Like that's really sweet. But at the same time, too, you're like, okay, I'm very different. On TV, I've seen that people here who are white don't like people like me. But my eyes, I was also 15, so my eyes weren't open
Mm-hmm.
to what people would call microaggressions. But there'll be times when I would be the one time I was sitting in a restaurant with other people, and then somebody comes and just like wipes my skin and says, "Oh, now I have touched an African person." And
Are you
that
serious?
that made me uncomfortable. And I was like, but I didn't understand why it made me uncomfortable. Because I was like, I think you're supposed to be nice. You're supposed to be like, ha ha ha, and laugh it off. But then, like, it, doing that makes you feel as though it's like, well, like your humanity is actually kind of different. Like, you're actually maybe
Yeah.
not as human as like other people are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like one experience. Another experience too, one time I was in gym class and somebody says, "Oh, Theo, you're an Oreo. You're such an Oreo cookie. You know, you're black on the outside, but you're white on the inside." I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? What does being white look like? What does that entail? And how is it that like me you classifying me as that make you feel less it
Yeah.
was again I was 15 and these were very confusing things that happened, and in retrospect I realized that like, oh, that is people pointing out difference, and I think difference should be celebrated,
Mm-hmm.
and when calling out difference is linking that to dehumanization, that's when it becomes confusing for a 15-year-old brain to then comprehend like what makes sense and what doesn't. Um, but then the beautiful thing about life is it's good and bad at the same time. And despite all those confusing experiences, it gave me a different cultural context that I had to learn. It made me a different kind of linguist where I could then speak the different kinds of languages of different kinds of cultures. What I mean by that is like the cultural codes that are written and unwritten
Mm-hmm.
about living in different places.
Right.
Yeah.
In Ghana, you have to greet everybody that you see on the road or even like wherever you are, because saying hello is a way of recognizing that people are
Mm,
present.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of recognizing that like you exist within a community and no man is an island. But in
yeah.
the US, people say hello to each other, but like it's very different because
Yeah.
people have to catch a meeting, people have places to be, there are different calls, the schedules run a little bit differently in the US than in Ghana, where we're a little bit more relaxed. And
Yeah.
so recognizing the different cultural codes is helpful to then recognize that like when somebody passes by you and you had a conversation the day before and they don't even acknowledge you, it's not because they don't like you, you know, they have other things to do. Maybe they don't like you, but don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
And so like being able to kind of appreciate the differences across the Atlantic was very helpful. It was also a very beautiful thing because then there's a sense of confidence that comes with that and a sense of uh like inquisitiveness that comes out of that where you then want to seek out more different and more and experiences that help you understand hopefully more of the 360 human worldview and experience to hopefully give you a way to understand other people so that hopefully I can become a more empathetic person so that when people are debating and calling to question people's rights to exist and the ability for minorities to be able to like have a full life in places where they might otherwise feel threatened, it
Yeah.
just gives you more empathy on that. It gives you more a sense of responsibility also to help and protect the downside for other people in the community because I have experienced that. And also you've talked to other people who have had similar experiences. So it was a very formative time coming to the US for the first time. But then it gives you a different appreciation for what it means to exist within this world and to push towards a stronger sense of understanding.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
You spoke about rewriting those cultural codes, and I think, and as we kind of cross our world boundaries, like from growing up from our own countries, from our own small towns, and like, and getting exposed to these like different cultural contexts, is oftentimes as you call cultural shock, as many of the immigrants felt when like coming
Mhm.
for like education to US. And I think I remember when you were sharing this. I grew up in a small town, and there one of my close friends had like a strong depressive episode,
Mhm.
and no one really understood.
Mhm.
And just being curious and genuine close friend, I wanted to help.
Mhm.
But then suddenly there's still like a taboo around mental health over
Mhm.
there. I started being told about told by people that, oh no, just like leave him alone, and like, no, it's okay, and like he'll figure it out, you don't need to help. And it just like I want to highlight like how much as a young student, I was also probably like 14, 15, like um uh, confusion and kind of like a doubt that it feeds into the brain of a young person, just thinking through like, wait, like, am I thinking it wrong? Like, what's so wrong about it? And I think, and like having someone to help you get out of it, or like help you understand that, no, I think you are right. I think it's just the cultural context of this place that's probably you're not understanding. I think it only is like after when I moved to like a bigger city, and probably was much more normal here, and especially in US, much more, I think, normalized here, than to like discuss about mental health, that I finally understood, no, I think I was right all the way, right? Like, I was just doubting myself for no
Yeah.
reason.
Like being validated for just like instincts that you have, like great, it makes a difference. It gives you a sense of confidence that if you didn't have that, you would just like have that doubt at the back
Yeah.
of your mind fully.
Theo, I have a question to ask.
Okay, ask me. It's my
Um,
podcast.
yeah. Um, a bit off topic, but I always see you smiling on campus, and it's just not me. I think people love you. I think you just bring energy in a room. Um, People might think that you have got it all together, but we all know that that's never the case. And what keeps you resilient here despite all the challenges? Like, what keeps you going, and um,
Always smiling.
always smiling, always bringing that energy? And I think it's really, I think, appreciative. I think like whenever I see you, and whenever we all see you, I think just like the smile is obviously like, I think, spreads.
Yeah, but I mean, that's very kind of you to say. The smile. I don't know. I kind of chalk it up to very different things happening at the same time. One is, I don't know, I feel like Ghanaians love smiling, but maybe that's not the case because not all Ghanaians smile like that. But then also, again, my dad is a pastor. It's very foundational to who I am, where we grew up we had multiple visitors coming to our house all the time. Also, when you're going to a new place, every 4 years we're changing the church. So you're meeting new people all the time. By the time I was in sixth grade, I had been in almost 10 different schools, I
Wow.
want to say. So we're moving all the time, seeing different kinds of people. And I just realized very early on that at some point, when you meet a new person, there's a stage where you don't know anything about them. And then after interacting with them, there's a stage where you actually know a lot of things. So when I was 10 years old, I decided that I was just going to skip the first part and go into the second part.
That
That's
is
what
so good.
enables me to just like stay present. And because at the end of the day, where I found out there's a common core amongst all human beings.
Hmm.
That's reason number two that I think. These are all hypotheses. The reason number three is possibly also my being Christian. And the, honestly, like there's a Bible verse that says, "The joy of the Lord is my strength." And also, there's another Bible verse that says, "For all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord." Those two things are very important because every single day there are trials and tribulations. Guys, we're fighting for our lives to be able to stay awake in some of these classes. We're pushing through to be able to like meet all the different goals that we have set for ourselves. And I realized like all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And that makes me feel less anxious because I know deep in my soul that like at the end of the day, something works out. Maybe it might not be the first thing or the second thing you thought, but like something always works out, thankfully. And even when it's dire, there has to be a way of finding some sort of like hope. And even though it sounds a little bit cheesy, like I do genuinely believe that to the core of who I am. And then lastly, for the fact that I'm going through like I'm pushing through hell and high water doesn't mean that the other person is or they are not. It is my responsibility to make sure that like my if I'm wrong in my head or if I'm like cloudy in my head, I take responsibility over my emotions and realize that like the spillover effect over my emotions is very real if it's positive or negative. We talk about like externalities in economics. And I think that like being able to take responsibility over who you are and how you're seeing the world and what you're feeling is kind of important for also like hopefully controlling the ripple effects that you have as you go through the world. Um, I think when I was in fifth grade, somebody said your rights end where your nose is. Sort of like this is how much you're able to control yourself. And so whatever is beyond that, hopefully you're projecting positivity because if your leg if you hurt your leg this morning, it wasn't because like your professor is not the reason why your leg is hurt. And so you shouldn't take that on. Sorry, it's a very convoluted analogy. But basically you
We
take responsibility
understand.
over your own
Yeah.
emotions. And I think those are the four things that I think help me stay a little bit like lightheaded, not like a little bit more positive.
How has HBS challenged your sense of identity or purpose?
Hmm. It's a very important question. It's a very good question. HBS has definitely challenged my sense of purpose in different ways. One is I came to the business school thinking I have this grand plan for my life and I want to figure out how to like actionalize it. HBS has given me so many different tools to help like chip at that. Um, but if I were to drill down to the gift it's giving me, yes, your first question is like the challenge, how it's challenged me, but like the gift it's giving me is I honestly feel like guys, we can do most things. I can't become a doctor. That's one thing I cannot do. But I think we can or a scientist.
Maybe you can with Theo's energy.
But like we can actually do a lot of things, guys. Like it's so cool seeing people with our profiles walk these halls and then come up with audacious goals and see those goals through. The different group chat, like I have a classmate that's raising a fund that has a really cool strategy, and she's on her way to raising. She and her partner are on her way to raising like $25 million. I know somebody else who raised over $50 million last year before he graduated. We read cases about HBS graduates who are raising 60 million plus dollars like as they graduate. And I keep referencing investing scenarios because that's what I'm thinking of.
Just able to measure. Yeah.
Mm.
Right. But like we I might characterize these people as like extraordinary, but like if the average like of people here is the kind of person going out and doing these things, then I think we all have a platform that we can stand on to be able to actually like strive. And I'm having a lot of discussions with people about how like at the end of the day, the kind of network and tools and professors and advice and business models we have read about and like and encapsulated and grown to appreciate and critique and even sort of like materialize, all of those are very important and create a full view of and just gives you that sense of confidence to be able to just go out and just do the damn thing. And recently, that's kind of been I've been at my forefront because I realized that like I'm believing more and more. Actually, guys, like we can do most things. Um, but then in terms of the challenge, though, last year the RC year is oof, that is
Tough.
an intense time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like I deluded myself into thinking I was having a great time. I wasn't like having a terrible time, but like it wasn't what I'm experiencing this year, which is life goals and visions and missions and all of that is coming into the
Yeah.
view a little bit
Yeah.
more, and you feel more aligned, and people are willing to chat, people are willing to have a conversation, people are willing to
Hmm.
support. And if it's not you, you're hearing of people who are getting that kind of support, and that makes you believe that like I too can do this. And so whoever is if you're an RC and listening to this, it is the toughest of times. Remember that like Second year, it gets better, I promise. The spring gets a little bit better depending on whether you're recruiting. But second year is great.
You have to survive in order to thrive.
You have to survive. Yes, Uncle. You can put that on.
Thanksgiving's coming up. Gonna go back to that.
Mm.
I'm gonna regret not asking this, so I have to ask: who does the jollof better?
Garage. This is a centuries old argument, but it's been put to bed. And honestly, it is not even biased. Like, guys, Ghana, empirically speaking, Ghana wins all the time.
That's what a Ghanaian's gonna say.
Okay. Okay, girl.
For people who don't know what we're talking about biryani.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
And in that point, Hyderabadi biryani from India also is pretty much out there. But just saying.
We love biryani, but also biryani is a whole different conversation, okay? Respectfully, let's put that separate. No, the Senegalese have something to say about this as well. But if it's Ghana, Nigeria, listen, the Nigerians, they try their best. You know, they mean well. But
Ghana takes it. Ghana takes
the
it.
cake always, consistently.
I think we need to bring a Nigerian here or someone from Senegal here and
Mhm.
ask them the same question. You say it's put to bed. I don't believe it is.
You're wrong. Whose side are you on?
I'm on our guest side.
Mhm,
Yeah, let's go to the last question. We always ask this. You know, it's called the unwritten case. So this is the unwritten case. It's 10 years down the line. Theo is a successful investor in Ghana, you know, supporting the community. How do you see your case framed? It's being written on you.
Ooh, this is a very important question. How do I see my case framed? You know, there are different kinds of cases. There are cases where like you have to make a big decision. Um, well, I think that usually there's always like a twist in it. Um, 10 years from now, I will be knocking on the door of I'll be 2 years away from turning 40 years old. And I hope deeply at the time that the case would be about having figured out a model of investing that I have conviction in for Africa that is nimble enough to target the areas of investing that we need money to flow to. And that is also appreciative enough in the sense that like it's delivering the instrument is delivering the right kind of return so that people realize and see more and believe in it more clearly that like Africa is actually a very investable area and it makes sense to do it and that Africans can also have a share of the investing pie and that it's not just stuck in one set of 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 LPs and that we're able to actually like hopefully mostly flow the capital into the places where it's needed the most. Um, and I hope that the story also involves um, uplifting people who are in Africa who don't feel seen fully by the societal structures that be sexual minorities, women, people of different genders, etc., feel as though they're able to also claim their full Africanness and feel confident that through it all, they also have a role to play in writing the future we want to see for the country.
Making Africa whole, one smile at a time.
Yes, yes, kind of episode.
Uncle has some good
Good quotes.
Yeah, quotes today.
All I want to say, I think we see a bit of your mom and a dad in you. I think we learned so much in this episode from you, and I'm sure I think our audience members would also. But
No, we're really
Thank
glad
you.
that you could make the podcast. You know,
Very kind.
really loved hearing your story, your background. We hope that everyone learned a bit of a thing or two from Theo today. And
yeah, and I think to the audience members, to the ones who are listening, some of you have over the past few weeks gotten back to us, and I think we have shared what you have loved in these episodes. We'd love to hear more feedback. What would you want to hear more in these episodes? And yes, please do reach out to us. And here, I think we sign off. This is Gorang. This is me, Sankal, with Theo. And stay tuned in for the next episode.